Yesterday I recorded an intro to iPad or tablets in this session, and I realized that after I had looked it over that I was looking down at the tablet most of the time. Now I've got it in my hand, and so when I replayed the session, it was pretty funny because you couldn't see anything. You could see two things. You could see me with my head down, and you could see the iPad on the screen. So I redid it and put in another clip that was basically me holding up the camera or the iPad and try to play Vanna White. I hope that's not embarrassing to Vanna or anybody else, but my impression is that here I am trying to follow some text by showing things as they go along. So it wasn't necessarily coordinated. Anyway, this is my iPad. It's about 4 or 5 years old, and usually they last quite a while, except after a while you can't upgrade them to a newer system. Another thing that I recommend is that you get a protective case, and I happened to buy a pencil when I got mine, and those are pretty expensive, about $100. I think I probably used it for maybe an hour in the past 5 years or so. But anyway, if you're an artist, a pencil would be great, and you can do a lot of things with it, but I haven't done it. So anyway, on with the rest of this. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to attempt to do something about an iPad or a tablet, and it's a little difficult because you can see the screen of the tablet, but not everything else about it. In order to use a tablet, down below there are some buttons that are pretty common. This is at least for a Mac. In order to change a screen, I just slide my finger across, and I have a lot of different apps that I've loaded. One of the most important things is to get the settings. So the settings, it's a little gear wheel, and you just touch the icon. And so right now, for example, it tells, like, under general, there's settings that are here that came up automatically, but they're under general. And like if I touch about, it tells me about this particular thing. To go back, I just touch things again with my finger. If software needs to be updated, usually there would be a little number here, but if I touch that, and it checks to see if there are updates. You know, it looks like I could update this to another, and I would have to download and install, but I won't do that now. I've got some other issues going on. Whenever there's a red icon, a little red bar here, I touch that and it's saying that something is wrong. I need to upgrade my storage. Anyway, let's go back. The first thing that you need to do is make sure that you're connected to Wi-Fi if you're using a tablet. So in this case, you touch the Wi-Fi button, and let me turn it off right now. I'm going to turn off the Wi-Fi, and all I do is touch that area. So touch it, it automatically turns it on, and it's going to find networks that are close by, and I just want my own network, and I've already logged into it. But if you go to another location, for example a coffee shop, you want to make sure that you hook up the iPad to Wi-Fi. And Bluetooth, if you have earphones or things like that, or you want to hook up hearing aids or whatever, there might be some things like Bluetooth. It's right now it's off, but if I touch that icon and open up Bluetooth, it's going to search for devices. So, for example, I do have a pencil, but it's not charged, and so it's not connected. AirPods, if I took them out of the AirPod case, it would probably connect them, but I'll turn the Bluetooth off. I don't need it. A lot of these things that are here, like screen time, any of these ideas that are here, the Apple Pencil, Touch ID, App Store, if you first get an iPod, the first thing you have to do is establish an account. Now, I have an account, and I have to have an Apple ID, and there's iCloud terms and all. I guess I better view the terms. They're saying that there's new terms and conditions that I have to agree upon. So you pretty much have to agree to everything that they say, and I just will. It's not worth reading all the definitions, but like right now, there are some things that are here. This is the main setting. And if I touch the home button, which you can't see on the screen, if I touch that, I go to a screen. Now, whenever I've got all these things on my desktop, these are all apps. I've got dozens of them. So a lot of them I don't use anymore. And some of the ones that I do use are Mail. They're down below here. But if I want to get anything, any apps, any games, anything else, what I need to do is have an Apple account. And you have to go, once you get the Apple account, which I was showing a second ago, I have an Apple account, and I've got an Apple ID, I have an iCloud account, media and purchases, and what you really need to do is you need to establish an Apple ID if you're using an Apple, or whatever tablet you're using. You basically do the same thing. So what's good for one tablet is pretty much true for all of them. And you basically you establish an Apple ID, which is usually an email address, and a password, which is something you never ever want to forget. If you forget your password, you're out of luck for a lot of things. So make sure you write that password and ID down somewhere so that you're never going to lose it. And if ever you have to change it, you probably won't. If you have an Apple ID, it's pretty much going to last you forever. So even if you change email, you're going to need to remember your Apple ID that you had. So you establish the account. And once you've done that, I'm going to go to the home button. Then you can go to the App Store. So you touch App Store, the A. And so some people, for example, need to get Zoom onto this iPad. So you would just click in there. You may not be able to get Zoom through the App Store, but you usually can. Here's Zoom app for the iPad. And I happen to have it already on my iPad, I believe, but you basically you download it. So there's a little button that goes down. And I should have I should have Zoom on here. Maybe I don't, because I don't use my iPad. But if you want to use Zoom, for example, you need to get this. Another way of getting this would be to cancel. Push the home button. Go to the internet. So for this iPad, you'd usually use Safari, which is the little hourglass. So I'd go to the Safari, or if you want to, you can download some other app like Google. I have Google Chrome. So I would, for example, I don't want to switch to Safari yet. So I want to, for example, I would go to Zoom and Zoom apps. Let's see what they have there. So I would basically go to the apps, and I would click on this, just touch it, and then there's a down. So you see that you push the down. The apps are usually just located in the App Store. You push the down arrow, the little cloud, you just touch it, and then you would be getting the Zoom app. If I'm just go back to the App Store, touch the home button. I go back to the App Store. Usually you can find like games, and there's free games, recommended games, all different kinds of games. So they're going to always suggest games to you. I usually have Wordscapes. It's kind of fun word game. If you want to get it, just push the down. I've already installed it before, but it's still up in the cloud, so I have to go down. Search for any game you want. If you wanted, for example, to play solitaire, just type in solitaire. By the way, notice what I did to instigate this. Let me clear it. So up at the top, it's finding things. So as soon as let me cancel, let's see. As soon as I touch up in this area to search, the keypad comes up. So then that's where I would type whatever I want. So let's say I want solitaire, so I start typing SO. Notice it already came up solitaire, so I tap that. There are versions of solitaire. A lot of them are free, and a lot of them, and so if they're free, usually they have advertisements that go, but just touch get, and then they would ask for an Apple ID. So if I wanted to get solitaire, I tap get, and I have to go through the App Store. So it says to touch the ID to install. Well, my Touch ID doesn't work anywhere. So if I try that, I have to enter a password. So I enter a password, and I have to sign in to the Apple ID. So enter the password for my Apple ID. So I would have to remember that password that I was talking about. Anyway, I don't want to do too much with this, but this is basically the start of what. So what happens with an iPad or most of these other tablets is you have a home button, and this you can't see because it's you can't see my hand either here. Possibly you can. I guess I'd have to touch this home button. Once I touch the home button, I can see whatever apps I have. If you want to get your mail, there's a little button here. I just touch it, and I will get all my mail. And of course, you need to set up your mailboxes first, and I've done that earlier. And that you do through the control panel. But you can slide your finger down, and I'm scrolling through all my email because I usually don't check it on this. So you just scroll down, and as soon as you find something that you want to look at, some email, you touch it. It's like, here's a receipt from Apple. So I touch that, and over on the side you can see what the receipt is. Now I can't see that very well, so I use my fingers to spread it apart, and to set it down smaller, I squeeze it. So basically you're either you're spreading things apart to make it bigger, you're zooming, or you close this way to close it up.